make it. Like if, in this case, you have a couple different fruits, right? So you could just eat them at the same time and see if you like them together. But in general, it's also like when you're trying to put, Chef Stein's back, when you're trying to put foods together, if it grows together, that's a good sign that they'll go together. Like it grows together in that same area. If it's like seasonally growing together, that often means that they will taste good together. But
Wow.
generally just taste them before you cook them. Just eat them all.
That's right.
Best way to decide.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Chef.
Wow, that was not fun at all.
I thought that was, we were just laughing because you said you weren't going to have any issues because you were in the mountains with the bad weather.
That's not weather related.
A squirrel ate your line.
Welcome to
That's scary.
smart apartment buildings, I think is what that was.
Uh,
I don't know. Literally, it was like, oh, thanks for playing. My power went out my entire apartment. Now it's going back. Well, you know how it is. Then the internet's got to come back, and then this, and then I'm trying on my phone frantically. Maybe I can sign in on my phone. Anyway, sorry, gang.
That's no worries.
I hit record again, so we'll have half a recording, which is fine. We didn't really miss it.
Well, we were just talking about different things in your condiments, but I don't think they have very many questions. It sounds like. Anyone else? No. You must have done a fantastic job yesterday teaching.
That was a we, not an I, that's for sure, or me. What I was gonna say before the power went out, maybe it's gonna go out again. I don't know. Let's see if I can share my screen here again. What I was gonna do quickly was just go over the helpful hints.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on here. That's not the first time that happened, but that was interesting. Sorry about that. So I was just go over the helpful hints really quick, make sure everyone's got those, a handle on all of that, and then see if that spurs any other questions. But remember, for your pickled red onions, this lyonnaise cut is what, make sure that you cut them that way. And we talked about not too thick along the way. And remember, red onions, yes, you need red onions. And you can change out the vinegars, just make sure that they're not red or balsamic vinegar. So apple cider vinegars and sherry vinegars and white wine vinegars, all of those. The one thing I wish we could do, I guess you could always send out kits, but when I was teaching Garde Manger Chef previously on brick and mortar, we did a lot of show and tell, and we did a lot of product ID, but one of them was vinegar tastings and vinegars. I know tasting vinegar, but because you'll see.
I love tasting vinegar. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. I'm a sour, bitter kind of guy. So.
Me too.
Than one, if you ask people. Different vinegars not only have different flavors, of course, depending on what they're made from, what the fermentation was, but they have different acidity levels. So 2.5%, 5% and things. And so that's kind of important to know, or it's a good thing to know while you're doing some of these things, because not only will the flavor change if you use apple cider vinegar, but the amount of acidic components to it will also change along the way. So you can change out your vinegars. We really, really recommended using whole spices, whole seeds, instead of trying to use ground. You'll get a different flavor and you'll get a different visual aspect out of it. But if you can't, you can use ground. Here's the ratios. But we could also mention, oh, I should have picked, I have some in my cabinet over there. You can always use a pickling spice blend instead of these particular spices, which the pickling spice blend Chef talked about has that in it plus a little bit more. And remember, either strain out all those seeds if you're using them, or put them in a little sachet so that you can pull them out, or that they won't get all mixed up with your onions along the way. Questions on pickled red onion?
Do you have questions on that cut? That knife cut? Because you haven't done it before. It's not difficult. Just you're making sure you're cutting it from like pole to pole.
Here's the good way to explain it.
Right? Like you cut it in half pole to pole, and then you still continue to cut it from pole to pole. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, not the other way, not across it like you do with the slices on the bottom of this picture. And you'll probably have to turn you'll slice it till it gets to be a little bit unstable, like where he is about now in that picture on the right. Then you can, move the cut pieces out of the way, turn the remaining part of your onion flat again on the surface and start cutting again. It's more stable. It won't move on you because we want to be safe when we're cutting too.
Yes, as Chad did mention that they did them in 101, so that should be familiar.
Oh,
I don't know
good.
if they I don't know if they called them the Lyonnaise cut or not, but that's
Yeah.
the cut. They did? Oh, good.
Good, cool.
Making sure. On your moussarda, oh, I also added this because you got me all interested in the history and the tradition of Northern Italy with moussarda.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that, some cities and things and different versions of them along the way.
Oh, Lingerie wants to go over the recipes again. So we just kind of went over the red onion one. But we can
So
go-
you're gonna combine the water, the vinegar, the sugar, and all those spices, whether they're in a sachet bag or whole seeds themselves. You bring that to a boil so that you're dissolving the sugar and you're releasing all the flavor from the spices themselves. Let that cool down because it's got to cool down to at least room temperature, so at least 70 degrees or so, because you don't want to cook the onions as we were talking about. So once that mixture comes to a boil and cools down, strain it and pour just the liquid over the red onions, making sure that the red onions are totally covered with pickling liquid. If you have the sachet, you can throw the sachet in there. That's not a problem. You don't have to strain it. And then also make sure that we talked about that non-reactive container because you've got vinegar all over the place on this week. So glass, ceramic, anything that isn't plastic or that will react with vinegar, with acid. And your pot that you bring it to a boil should also be non-reactive. So stainless steel lined is the best thing, or anodized aluminum. And then let them sit overnight, but at least a minimum of 4 hours, because the last picture on your picture requirement is the onions after they've sat. So they change their color and their texture a little bit, and certainly their flavor. That good? Are you okay then?
Oh, because she just said that was earlier when she asked. So then I asked if she was
That's
done.
that was you. I thought it was you typing. I
Yeah.
thought that was your typing.
Yeah, no.
See, I don't.
Yeah, so do you want to go over the other recipes, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask very poorly in my message.
And really quick, not a big deal.
Yes.
For your moussarda, remember, I mean, we talked about it's dried fruit cooked in a mustard syrup. You can use, and I know Chef, you were going over when I finally found my way back into Zoom land, what different fruits to use or combinations thereof. So it sounded like that was perfect explanation, right? Taste it and see what you think goes together well.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, stone fruits seem to be the best. Things like apricots and nectarines and cherries and grapes, if you have to, even things like that.
I think they were originally grape musk.
I think so. Yep.
Like they're very original mostarda.
And then you can use a dry wine, a dry white or dry rosé of some format, or just water. And just make sure it's drinkable. It can be de-alcoholized, like Chef has a bunch of fun stuff that doesn't have alcohol in it if you want. Remember, same thing, make sure you use a non-reactive pot because again, you've got vinegar and acid from the wines and things. So you take your fruit, make sure you chop them up so that they're not huge and they're fairly even in size. They don't have to be measured or perfectly cut, but make sure that they're not a half of an apricot or something. Shallots, fruit, wine, vinegar, sugar, you bring that to the boil, you cover that. It's going to take a little while for those things to hydrate, so you'll soften up the fruit. I can't give you a time frame because I don't know how big your fruit is and what fruit it is. But you just want to cook it till it starts to hydrate and start to break down. Then you're going to add the mustard and you're going to cook that until the end when we talked about this is the kind of the consistency you're looking for, maybe even a little bit more jam-like. And then you can, after it's totally cooked, process it to make it really, really smooth or not. I don't like mine smooth, so I don't process mine, but you can do however you want, one way or the other. And then make sure when you do store it, like we talked about, non-reactive, no plastic. Glass is your friend this week.
Mason jars.
Mason jars, those are your friends. And then finally, chutney. So tomato and raisin chutney. Remember, you can use fresh tomatoes, and if you do that, we talked about peeling them yesterday. And if you don't want to use fresh tomatoes, you can use a peeled, seeded, and diced tomato in juice. A couple pound can, so about 32 ounces of those to make this recipe. And you've got the tomatoes that are roughly diced or cut in half, depending on what size they are. So I love this. It says cut it, you know, what is it? Cut tomatoes in quarters. Well, it depends how big your tomato is.
Yes.
Tomatoes, garlic, ginger, the first few ounces of vinegar, 2 ounces of vinegar right there. You blend all that. Then you combine all that into a pot with the additional vinegar that loosens it up a little bit more for you. You let that boil. You bring in the sugar at the end right here. And you let that simmer until you get that jam-like consistency out of it. And then at the end, add a little bit of your chilies and your raisins. Taste for salt. Let that cook a little bit longer just to cook the chilies and the raisins a little bit so they rehydrate. And again, it should be chutney. It should be very jam-like consistency. It shouldn't be very liquidy. Remember, the chilies are optional if you don't want to put them in there. But again, for me, chutney is sweet, sour, and spicy, picante spicy. So I think it needs some form of chili of some form. You can, if you've got extra chilies left from week 1, we talked about using those, go ahead and use that. And if you don't have golden raisins and want to use regular raisins, that's fine. If you don't want to add the raisins, there'll be a little bit of sweetness that won't be there at the end, but that's okay also. Just make notes in your note section about all of this. And you can use red or white vinegar. Make sure it's a good, nice, good quality. I would use a wine vinegar. Again, it's going to have sort of this like consistency to it. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
And I talk too much, Chef. You gotta stop me from
There
doing
was,
that.
well, no, there was that little link in case you guys can't find the whole seeds on one of your slides. Was just like a oh yeah, there, how to convert. Basically, it's a hard to convert. It's hard to convert whole things to ground things. So this is a nice little, especially because it's like, I don't know what it says on that recipe, like, but this is a really nice little, take a screenshot, like move it down so they can see the piece there where they need, I think they have coriander on there. No, I mean,
Right
go
here.
back. Yeah, just let people take, you can take a picture or a screenshot or something if you want it, in case you can't find the whole seeds.
The link is in the slides, and then this is another good link right here.
Mm-hmm.
I like Food 52. Those guys
Yeah,
are
I do
good.
too. They're really good.
And they'll talk about right here has even a bigger, more.
Yeah, more or less there.
So either one of those will help you out.
I think they're the same thing practically.
It should be very similar, if not the same. Yes.
Yeah.
Love their little pictures anyway. That's a good site. If you guys don't know about Food 52, there, it's a pretty good site. It's run
Oh, that is
by,
a good site down there. Go down and so you can see the pictures. Can you make that bigger? Oh, no, that's just, it's good to start getting used to what they look like. You know, what the spices look like.
can't make it bigger, but there you go.
Yeah. So if you don't know what things look like, start to just go look at the spice aisle and start to see what things look like, because you're going to need to be able to identify spices by sight.
And smell and taste.
Yeah.
That'll
But I
all
think sight is the one that really throws people at first, because there are all these little round things, you know, and you're like, oh, What are all these little things?
Is that a peppercorn, an allspice berry, a juniper
Yeah.
berry? What is that? Nutmeg? What
Yeah.
is it?
So it's good to
Yes.
start to learn what they look like.
Very, very cool. Awesome, y'all. Anything else anyone wants to talk about or question or? So knowledge checks and all that we've been talking about, make sure you do that. Remember September 26th, that's Sunday of week 12 is your last chance, people. That's the last time to submit anything because everything has to be into us by midnight. Next week, as we talked about, is, meat preservation. So as we said, it's an or week. Either do the pâté de campagne, so the country style pork pâté, and we'll talk about what all that is next week. I've pretty detailed slides, more information than you need to pass this class, but information you will want about force meats and molding and all that stuff. But you either do the pork one, which does have chicken liver in it, or you do the vegetable one, or both if you'd like, but it is an or. And again, really, we want to see a gorgeous slice or 2 or 3 on a plate with some nice garnishes and condiments and all that stuff. And then week 12, just so you know, is appetizers and hot hors d'oeuvre week. And you have 3 different, I'm with you with this camera, right, Chef? It's like, 3 different appetizers to do. You have stuffed mushrooms, or 2 appetizers in a sauce, stuffed mushrooms, a remoulade sauce, and it's French remoulade sauce. It's mayonnaise based with capers and fun stuff in it, not Cajun remoulade. And then the other one is an or. You either do a crab cake or an artichoke cake, depending if you want seafood or not, or what you'd like to do or what you can find. So that's week 12. I don't know if you noticed, and we haven't said anything. I keep forgetting. It came up in our meeting today, Chef. You don't have a final. There is no 50 question. I know. Heavy. But you don't have a final. So you do have knowledge checks for every single week, and we've been doing it and things like that, but no, even Candy smiling. I love that. So no comprehensive final at the end, which does mean your knowledge checks and all your assignments are worth more than they were in CU101 or whatever. So you can't just rely on, I'll ace the final and I'll get all this great points at the end. There is none. So yay, no final, but bad because you don't get the points for that either.
And
Like that
remember
George is
the
like,
last day too is the 21st to turn in makeup work.
thank you. I forget about that too. I love that George is like, thank you, Lord. Praise the Lord. Yeah. I can't see his face with the mask on, but there's a smile back there. I can see it smile. There it is. All right, and a thumbs up. That's awesome. Good to finally see you, George. We never see your face because you got the mask.
I know.
That is awesome. So anyway, there you go. I see happy news. Why
Yeah.
not? Anything else? Anyone? Chef? Any last words of wisdom? We're really gonna miss you. Again, I gotta send you that virtual thank you cake or whatever along the way. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad that you and I got to teach 122 together.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Different than capstone and externship.
Yeah, super fun.
It has been great. So thank you for that. I know that the kids are gonna miss you. But thank you very much for being along with us.
Jeff, thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming along letting me along on the journey. One of your many teachers. It's been an honor.
I know. So
Thank you very much, Chef Kelly.
Yeah.
You
I
guys are
sent
doing
you
great.
an email, a farewell email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Chad 100%. I like that one. He always comes up with the best ones. So awesome game. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to submit. You'll be getting some fun emails from us on Fridays, our normal Friday, Happy Friday emails along the way. And then we'll see you next week. And next Wednesday is going to be a little bit of an intense discussion because it's on that meat curing that we're talking about. And it's got a lot of moving parts, not difficult, but something that you probably haven't seen before. I do know the good news is I know Arturo and a number of other people have talked to me about sausage making and things because we're in Carmagé and that's where it is. So this is the beginning discussion of that. This will help you guys out a little bit along the way. Something you're either going to love, I love it, or you're going
I
to not
do.
love it, or you're going to not love it. You know, what's the joke? Do you really want to know how the sausage was made, Theory? But yes, it'll be fun. So thank you again, Chef. Everyone be safe.
Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.